Hey everyone, welcome to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's November. It's the 2nd of November. It's 2016. It's Wednesday, and it feels like the real basketball slate, the first real basketball slate of the season, because I was doing my research here before we jumped on the pod, and I swear there's 15 to 20 people that are questionable, doubtful, out. It feels like NBA's back with this slate tonight. What's your thoughts, Notorious?
Yeah, it's these are my favorite type of slates. Just have to be checking the injury news all throughout the day. Have to be ready by your computer half hour before lock. So yeah, it should be fun. It should have a mad dash right to the finish line.
You can call it a mad dash. I'm going to call it, I'm going to pull my hair out because a lot of the problem here is a lot of the injury news is in the 8 o'clock games, and that's never a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, NBA seems to be getting a little bit better about injuries, so hopefully we can just avoid all the obvious guys that are dealing with injuries, and then hopefully no leg scratches. I mean, tonight we had Mike Conley and Marc Gasol, which was kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, first half of a back-to-back, those guys with the minutes, it didn't shock me too much. I wasn't on those guys, luckily, so it didn't hurt me. And it's going to be that variance, right? Like we're going to have some scratches that are going to hurt us and some that are going to help us. So that's how the season's going to happen. And with no late swap, we're just going to have to roll with the punches. So before we get into breaking down this nice little slate here on a Wednesday night, if you guys haven't checked out our sponsor, rosters.com, make sure you head on over there, check them out, use promo code GRINDERS. That way you guys get the incentives here at Roto Grinders. And they're running a sweet promo right now. Deposit $10, get $40 into your account. And if you're wanting to try out a new site, this is the best way to do it. You can play on their dime. So check that out. And we'll have some value placed here towards the end of the podcast over at Rosters, and we'll see what Notorious thinks of the value picks that we came up with here. So let's start on this 10-game slate. It's a big slate. We have a lot to talk about, and we're going to start with Toronto at Washington. Games at 2:03. Washington favored by only 1 point here. No injury news in this game. Everybody looks like they're a go here. Let's start with the Toronto side. What stands out to you here for Toronto?
Yeah, so first of all, I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to be the best game environment. Probably one of the slower paced games in the slate. Both these teams not really making an effort to push the pace. But Washington is no longer an elite defense. They rank 29th in points allowed per game. So there's certainly some spots that we can exploit here. Kyle Lowry, he's just too cheap right now. Coming off that big game against Denver, 7,400 on FanDuel, 76 on DraftKings. Seems like just a good time to buy low on him. We never mind targeting point guards against John Wall.
Yeah, he's the one guy that stands out to me. I kind of had to eat my shoe on Monday with DeMar DeRozan. On the pod, I said I didn't like him. I never liked playing DeMar DeRozan. He's a one-trick pony. But the shooting guard slate was so awful on that 4-game slate that I actually had to play him. And, I had to eat my shoe. So the slate's a lot different here, and it's going to be an easy DeMar DeRozan fade for me.
Yeah, I mean, he's averaging 35 actual points per game, but I mean, he's shooting 54% from the field. Not sure that's going to continue very much longer. I mean, I do like picking on wings against the Wizards, but I'm with you. I think I'd rather prefer Lowry. And then going down low, I do like Valanciunas as long as Nogueira's out. I mean, he's going to continue to see big minutes. I think he's averaging career high 31 minutes per game or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, he's in a good spot. I mean, I don't love centers against Gortat, but they're actually ranked dead last against centers in fantasy points allowed this season.
Yeah, I don't mind that. We know, like you said, he's going to play a ton of minutes. Pat playing over 30 minutes per game to start the season here. Super cheap. Like if you're looking for a punt and you're looking for a punt that's going to play 30 minutes, he could easily get you 10 fantasy points, but he could easily get you that 5 to 6x here as well.
Yeah, he's one of the most frustrating guys for me. I think I played him every day in the playoffs last year, and I don't think I think he played 35 minutes a game, didn't score more than 6 fantasy points or something. But yeah, I mean, he's doing a little bit more this year. Seems to be filling up the stat sheet a little bit, which I always like to see. So I don't mind that at that price.
All right, last name. I feel like I talked about way too many people here for Toronto, but the last name that I had written down is DeMarre Carroll. You mentioned wing players against Washington. What's your thoughts on Carroll here?
Man, so I've actually played him in cash the last 2 nights he's played, and I think he was like 1% on both of the slates. I love the price on him. I love that he's playing over 30 minutes a game. Yeah, I mean, I like to punt small forward, especially on FanDuel where we have to take two of them. So I'll probably be looking at him again in this slate.
Yeah, fills up the stat sheet. That's what I like about him. He's not one of those one-trick ponies. Looking at the Washington side of things here, John Wall definitely going to have the usage. What's your thoughts on Washington here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough matchup against the Raptors. Typically not a spot that I like to play guys against. They're ranked 6th in points allowed per game and 1st in fantasy points allowed per game this season. I do like John Wall playing at home, but I think I'll probably pick my spots elsewhere. The only option that really stands out here is Markieff Morris. He's played well in each of the first 2 games this season. He's seen big minutes, and he's still under 6K, so I don't hate that. I probably won't be playing anybody in cash games, though.
Yeah, Morris, a guy that I definitely like for tournaments here. He's always just needed minutes. Like, the guy's an active basketball player. He just needed minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone else here? What about Gortat or? Yeah,
No,
I'm off of Bill.
Even for tournaments, I think that I'm going to be a lot higher on the Toronto side of this game, and hopefully Wall just doesn't get to that 6 or 7x here on the slate.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those interesting situations where we like 4 guys from the Raptors and none from the Wizards, but we needed to stay close. So
yeah, so hopefully it's one of these random guys that just come out and have one of those types of games. So we'll see what happens. But let's move on. We have Philly at Charlotte, 195. Charlotte, a big favorite in this game, 12-point favorite. There is some injury news here. Roy Hibbert is doubtful. Jeremy Lamb is out. And, oh, God, I'm going to mess this guy's name up all year. Embed is out as well.
Embiid.
Process.
Just call the process. You'll be fine.
I had our boy SBK on yesterday, and I messed it up. And he's a big Philly guy, so he
probably wasn't having that.
Yeah, he lost his mind on me, but we definitely got him right on the slate on Tuesday night. So we'll have to see what we can do here. We'll start with the Philly side. With him out, Okafor's minutes are expected to go up a little bit. Is he a guy we can look at here?
Yeah, it sounds like they increased his minute restriction to 24, the same thing as Embiid last night. So I think we can look at him. I think we're going to see maybe not as high of usage as Embiid had, but, I mean, close to it. He's going to be their best offensive player. And if Roy Hibbert's out especially, I mean, he's going to go up against Cody Zeller, which I never mind. So at his price, I think I'm going to give him a hard look.
Yeah, he's a guy I'm looking at, and I like Sergio Rodriguez. I've been playing this guy. I feel like he's a nice little value here that nobody's playing.
Yeah, I think I have to be a believer now. Yeah, I mean, I haven't played him yet, and he keeps burning me. So I think I gotta start looking at him. The one thing that drives me crazy about this is, I mean, they just every 4 to 6 minutes, they're subbing all 4 or 5 guys out. I mean, it's just crazy to keep track of.
Yeah, you just don't watch Philly play. That's how you roster them. You just don't watch them play. Anybody else here? We know Grant got traded. We'll have to see if Ilyasova is in the lineup or if he's even active for this game. Anybody that could get minutes here? It didn't really seem like it changed much, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at Holmes. He should play minutes in the mid-20s again off the bench. He had a decent game last night. Nothing spectacular, but I think he's still under 4K on both sides. Yeah, he's 3,500 on FanDuel and 3,700 on DraftKings. So if you need a punt, I don't hate that play.
All right, with Hibbert out, Lamb out, what are we doing with the Bobcats? In a game, they're favored by a lot in this game.
Yeah, that's what scares me. Anytime we have a full slate, I typically want to avoid the teams that are, could be in blowouts. 12-point spread, Sixers on a back-to-back. They don't have their best player in Embiid. So certainly some blowout concerns here. But if the game does stay close, it should be a good spot for tournaments. Kemba Walker, great splits at home. Sixers are dead last against point guards this season. Marvin Williams is a guy that I kind of like a little bit, especially if Roy Hibbert's out. He's playing over 30 minutes a game. And he can shoot the 3 a little bit, which is nice on DraftKings. And then what about MKG? Any interest there?
Very slight interest. Like, he's capable of putting up good games, but like, where every one good game we're going to see 3 or 4 bad. So I just don't know. Like, I want guys that are going to shoot the ball over 10 times a game. And he had that one game where he went out and had a great game, and then 5 and 6 shots the next 2.
Yeah, definitely frustrating. And I mean, a guy with that shot, it's kind of hard to give him a lot of shot attempts. Have you ever seen a picture of his shot?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It looks like he's
hilarious.
shooting backwards or something.
Almost better than Noel's hair. So not a guy we get to talk about until later on in the season, obviously. Last guy here that I have is the guy that I'm looking at in tournaments is Frank the Tank, Frank Kaminsky. If Hibbert's out in this game, we could see Frank be that big man that's off the bench, and off the bench against this team, he's going to have some really favorable matchups.
Yeah, played 24 minutes the other night against Boston. Had around 20 fantasy points, so I don't mind that. Probably won't need to go there in this big slate, but it's certainly the guy that if he fills your last spot, I don't mind it.
Yeah, I'm talking tournaments. We're getting some big tournaments across the industry on this Wednesday night. So, just trying to pivot off of some of the chalk and try to find some of these 2% owned guys that if he gets a few extra minutes, if the foot's feeling a little bit better here, that he could get to those 25 fantasy points in this matchup.
Yeah, definitely possible.
All right, let's move on. We have the Lakers. We have Atlanta. Mozgov is the only injury news here. He's questionable. We'll have to pay attention to see. This is an early game, or 7:30 game, so we might get this news. Yes or no, we'll see. 208 total. Atlanta favored by 11.5 here. That worries me. Big favorites for Atlanta here.
Yeah, same issue as the Sixers game. Young team going on the road, facing a good defense. Hawks are holding opponents to league best 88.7 points per game. And it's just a bad spot. I mean, you could maybe go D'Angelo Russell against Dennis Schroeder. That's probably the only place I would look. I like Julius Randle quite a bit coming into the season, but not a matchup that I want to pick on against Paul Millsap.
We're just going to pick our spots with Randle this year, right? He's just going to be a guy we're going to play in situations.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the whole Laker team probably.
Oh, Dwight Howard, he really stands out to me on this slate. I don't want him to, but he does. What's your thoughts on Howard here?
Yeah, I mean, he's been playing well. He's at least looked motivated while on the floor. He got into it with Boogie Cousins the other night. That was kind of fun to watch. His price is a little high for me. I like him on DraftKings more than FanDuel. But yeah, I mean, against this Lakers team, we're probably going to struggle to rebound. I like that call.
Yeah, I don't mind Dwight, and Paul Millsap is expensive, but I always like him in tournaments. He has the potential to give you big games, and nobody ever plays him. And there's another power forward that we're going to talk about later that a lot of people are going to want to play. So, just finding some of these pivots. But for the most part, this game is kind of a stay away game for me. I think we mentioned, Russell, Howard, Millsap. I just don't see anything else here.
Yeah, I want to bring up two other guys.
Oh, gosh.
Dennis Schroeder, the big game's coming. I mean, he's been subpar at best so far, but I like to buy low on ownership with these guys that are talented, that just off the slow starts. So I'm going to have quite a few shares of him in tournaments. And then Mike Muscala, he's averaging 22 minutes and 22 fantasy points per game. Mike Scott and Splitter are both out, and even if the game turns into a blowout, it's not going to hurt his minutes.
All right. Okay. I can hear those guys. I hear you. Okay. I hear you. That's as far as it's going to go. I hear you. Let's move on. We have Houston at New York, 213.5 total here. New York's favored by 1.5. And that just goes to show nobody respects the Houston defense. The only injury news that we have here is Trevor Ariza. Stitches to his face during the game on Tuesday night. We'll have to see. It was right under his right eye. So we'll have to see how that plays out with him. But you're going to have to tell me why not to roster James Harden.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care that he played 38 minutes last night and I think he had 41 and 15 assists.
41, 15, and 7.
Yeah, I mean, ridiculous. He's their whole team. He's their whole offense. It's kind of weird. The Rockets are ranked 23rd in pace this season, but I don't expect that to continue moving forward. I mean, Mike D'Antoni loves to push the pace. He hates to play defense, and obviously Vegas agrees with us. I mean, 213 for the total in this game. So, yeah, I mean, James Harden, one of the top plays of the night. He should match up against Derrick Rose, Courtney Lee, no problem.
Eric Gordon, a guy that I'm just going to continue to play for solid value, averaging just over 33 minutes per game this season, and he's just been solid. That's the type of solidness I want from my value guys, and he's still pretty cheap.
Yeah, I like him, especially on sites that award 3-point bonus. I mean, yeah, like you said, he hasn't had any big games, but he hasn't had any bad games either, so he's not going to hurt you.
He could have a nice bump too if Ariza misses this game. Gordon could have the nice bump for a few extra shots.
Yeah, and then we got to bring out Brian Anderson. Just
Do we?
been awful this year, man.
Oh man, Ryan Anderson. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna keep chasing this big game because it's gonna happen one of these nights.
Yeah, maybe they should bring him off the bench. I don't know what they need to do to get him going, but yeah, I mean the shots have been there.
Anybody else for Houston? I know Nene got some run in Tuesday night game. I'm not looking into that too much.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, if Clint Capella, if we knew he was going to play 30 minutes, I'd be interested, but that's definitely not something we can count on, so probably not.
Yeah, it's something that, like, going into the season, we definitely expected it, but it's just not happening, which is weird. Looking at the New York side of things, man, like, is Melo still? Yeah, Melo's just too cheap on FanDuel. I'm going to say it again. I know he didn't quite get the value on this slate on Tuesday night, but, like, I'm going to continue to play Melo at 7,500. There's just no way.
Yeah, I mean, his fantasy points per minute are down a little bit this year, but I mean, that's to be expected when you bring in Derrick Rose. But I mean, this Knicks offense is just in such a good spot. I mean, they've been awful this season, only averaging 99 points a game, but they're projected to score 107.5 this tonight. So you got to boost this whole offense. Like you mentioned, Melo's too cheap on FanDuel. Same price on DraftKings too. So I think you can play him. I think you can look to Porzingis. He should match up against Ryan Anderson. Should be great on the offensive end of the floor, although Anderson may draw him away from the bucket a little bit on defense. Could hurt his rebounding a little bit.
Noah finally got the minutes on Tuesday night, which was just a nice little bump. Obviously we had the value play that we didn't need him. What's your thoughts on Noah? Do you think he's limited at all in a back-to-back here?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, he was seeing 20 minutes a night, and then he saw 30 last night. So, I mean, if he can get 30 against the Rockets, he'll be a steal. He's a guy that, gets a lot of rebounds, one of the better big men passers in the league. And, yeah, I mean, I would love the spot for him if he can get 30 minutes. So I'll look at him in tournaments. I'm not going to count on it in cash games.
Yeah, 33 fantasy points with only 2 actual points. That is the definition of a Joakim Noah fantasy game.
Yeah. What about Derrick Rose?
I can't do it, right? Like, we can't do Derrick Rose. I
can't either, but
I think it's a fair question.
Yeah, I mean, against the Rockets, it should be a good matchup, but point guard's such a deep position that you just can't really waste a spot like that.
Yeah, he's cheap. All right, I don't want to talk myself into Rose. Let's move on. Because it's going to happen. I'm just looking at it.
Yeah, just move on.
All right, Detroit at Brooklyn. We have a 204 total in this game. Detroit favored by 4. The only injury news in this game that we're looking at is Vasquez is questionable. We'll start with the Detroit side of things. Man, Andre Drummond, right? Like, this is a decent spot for him, and he's the upside play here.
Yeah, this is a great spot for their entire offense. Nets are ranked 22nd or worse against all 5 positions this season. And, Detroit is playing in a back-to-back, so you do want to look into those splits a little bit if you can. But, yeah, I mean, Drummond should just beast in this matchup. Yeah, we saw that game the other night. I mean, he has 20-20 upside when he has a favorable matchup.
Yeah, I like Drummond. I don't mind Tobias Harris. His price isn't cheap enough that I probably will roster him here. I think he's a fine floor play in the spot. What's your thoughts on KCP? He's a guy that I know I'm going to get it wrong today, but I like KCP in the spot.
Yeah, so I told you on the last podcast, I'm always wrong on KCP. So you're the KCP whisperer, so tell me what to do.
Well, I finally got him wrong. Like, I didn't play him against the Knicks on Tuesday night, so I'm a little worried here. I didn't like that spot for him, and I like this spot.
Have a great game.
Yeah, he didn't have the KCP 50-pointer, but
you're fine. You're still the whisperer.
I like the spot for him. I see him having a good game here. I like him a little bit more on DraftKings where you get the bonus for the 3-pointers, but I don't mind him here. That's it for Detroit, right? They just have a pretty balanced offense. Nobody off the bench that we like here.
I do like Ish Smith on DraftKings. He's a guy that I always like to play. He actually has the highest usage of anyone in this offense. Uh, and he's been productive. He just hasn't like had that big minute game yet. So if he sees upwards of 35 minutes, I think he could be a good value.
All right, with the news of Vasquez being questionable here, Jeremy Lin gets the bump, and he's still cheap enough that we can continue to look at Jeremy Lin here.
Yeah, definitely. Averaging 33 fantasy points per game in less than 30 minutes, averaging 1.11 fantasy points a minute, which is really good. I mean, I'm a Jeremy Lin fan, so I like seeing him playing so well, but it's pretty sad for your franchise when he's your best player. Just bad. I mean, but yeah, I mean, he's matching up against Ish Smith, which is probably the best matchup of the starters in this game. So I like Lin quite a bit, especially if Vasquez and Foy are both out again.
Booker was the guy we were using for value. Does his minutes in the last game concern you, or are you just going to chalk that up and move on and look at him for value here again?
Yeah, minutes for all these guys concern me. There's not one player on the Nets that's averaging more than 30 minutes, so it's definitely a concern. I still think you can use him. I think everyone's going to be off of him after he kind of disappointed a little bit. So, but yeah, I mean, I think you can still use him.
All right, let's move on. We have New Orleans at Memphis, 206 total here. Memphis favored by 5.5. All right, so they sat Gasol and Conley, right? No.
Yeah, Gasol and Conley.
What am I thinking? Yeah, Gasol and Conley on Tuesday night. Do you think that possibly we could see Zach Randolph sit in this game?
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
He did only play 10 minutes on Tuesday night, though.
Yeah, he should be fine, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, a little frustrating that it came out after lock. I mean, if you know you're going to rest your guys, just announce it earlier in the day. But it's not like anybody was using them anyway. I think DFS Twitter probably would have blown up if it would have been, Anthony Davis or something. Speaking
of Anthony Davis, looking at the New Orleans side thing first, still under 11K on FanDuel. You're the cash game guys. You can be a guy you're just going to click the button next to his name.
Yeah, I think you have to. This is an awful matchup, pace down game against a good defense. But then the usage he's getting and the peripheral stats that he's putting up, you just got to lock him in until his price goes up.
It actually came down. It was 11K on Tuesday night, and it came down $300 to 10.7 on FanDuel.
Well, he only scored like 65 or 70 or something.
Yeah, my bad. He didn't get the
brought his season average down.
Tim Frazier, a guy we've been looking at for value, not the greatest matchup in the world, but usage, minutes, and price, we should still consider him here, right?
Yeah, so he played well against the Spurs, which was a bad matchup, and then last night he played well against the Bucks, and Dellavedova is a good defender. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just fine with Frazier. He's still pretty cheap, 5,500 on FanDuel. Another guy whose price needs to come up, and until it does, you just keep playing him.
Oh, any interest in any of these other guys? Etuan Moore has been getting just averaging enough, but I just don't see any upside on the rest of these guys.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when you look at the fantasy points per game. You have DeBrow averaging about 70, Frazier about 35, and then everyone else is like 15, 7, 10. So, yeah, I mean, those are the two guys you want. You can avoid everyone else, especially against this defense.
Memphis side, anything you like here?
I mean, the two guys you would look at are the two that were rested last night. But, I mean, I just don't trust this offense. I don't trust – yeah, I don't know. What about you?
I have a little interest in Mike Conley. Little as in I think I'll have him on a little bit of tournament teams here if I roll out a bunch of teams. I haven't even decided what I'm going to do here on this Wednesday slate. There's just so many good tournaments. So if I roll out multiple teams, 5+, then I'll start getting some Conley exposure.
Yeah, I mean, if I wish he was like shooting guard eligible or something, that would help. Point guard's just so tough. I mean, there's so many players in play every night.
For sure. Let's move on. We have Chicago at Boston. A little bit of news here. It's a 211.5 total. Boston's favored by 3.5. We have Doug McDermott concussed is how I guess they say it. He's questionable for this game. We'll have to see if he passes the concussion protocol. Michael Carter-Williams is out. He's out 2 to 4 weeks from the initial report. Boston side, Bradley is questionable with a shoulder injury. Horford left practice early on Tuesday. He's sick, so we have to pay attention to that news. And Marcus Smart is probable to return here in this game tonight. So lot of question marks here going into this game.
Yeah, this is definitely a game that we need to watch leading up to tip off. But yeah, it should be a fun one. I mean, the Bulls 3-0 to start the season. They've played some decent teams so far, and they've just been crushing everyone. Vegas projected them to miss the playoffs, and they've just been playing well. I mean, we were worried about their shooting and their spacing, but they got McDermott and Mirotic off the bench, and it seems like this starting lineup is playing well together. So I didn't see it coming. Obviously we want to wait for a larger sample size, but the Bulls look pretty good so far.
All right, so we'll talk about the Bulls. Taj Gibson, a guy that I'm going to continue to use with his price being under $6K still on FanDuel. I feel like he's a solid value there. If McDermott's out, can we look at Mirotic?
Yeah, I mean, he's been getting 27 minutes a game, even with McDermott playing. So I definitely think you can look to him. He's a guy that can fill up the stat sheet pretty quick. And when he gets hot, he's just going to continue shooting. Like you mentioned, Taj Gibson. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I wish he was a small forward on FanDuel. God, I would play him in every lineup.
Yeah, no, we got Carroll instead.
We do. Yeah, we do. You keep going about Taj. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Gosh, just cut me off. Come on your podcast. Just cut me off.
All right, listen here, okay? Listen here. I do what I want. I say that all the time. It's my podcast. No, I'm just kidding. Go back to your Taj Gibson rant. Yes.
Yeah, play him. He's fine. He's good. I've been playing him every night in cash games. Hasn't disappointed yet. His price is coming up a little bit. When the season started, I think he was 4,100 on DraftKings, which was sweet. But yeah, I mean, he's still playable here. You know what you're going to get out of him.
Nobody's averaging over 30 minutes. Like that's concerning. Even Jimmy Butler's minutes have been not there. I worry about that a little bit, but I feel like Jimmy Butler is still one of the safer options.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why, I mean, they've just been blowing every team out so far. I feel like they've been their point differentials plus 18 per game. So I think that could have something to do with it. I think Butler's a guy that's going to get 35 or more when the game is close. So I agree with you. I love him in this spot, especially. Well, I guess he won't draw Avery Bradley's coverage anyway, but I still like him.
Yeah, on FanDuel, I like him on FanDuel because he's a small forward. That's where I like him. You have to play two small forwards over there, so that's where I'm looking at. So the Boston side of things here, oh, man, Isaiah Thomas is a guy that I really like in this spot. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I always like targeting point guards against Rajon Rondo. He's just not a good defender. And when they met earlier, they've already played once. He had 25 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, which is about what I expect from him in this matchup. So definitely good with him in cash games or in tournaments.
Yeah, I like him a lot more if Bradley's out. I will say that. Like, if Bradley's out of this game, I expect the bump to be Thomas.
Yeah, Bradley's been awesome this season. It seems like he just found his offense. Yeah.
I worry, even if he plays, I worry that shoulder injuries are something that I don't want to see in basketball.
Yeah, I agree. We do have Marcus Smart coming back. So, I mean, the minutes could be a little troublesome for Thomas. But, I mean, I think he'll still play 32, even if Bradley and Smart both play.
Jay Crowder, a guy that just fills up the stat sheet. He's just going to do that all year. What's your thoughts on him here?
Yeah, he's like the rich man's DeMar Carroll, but you have to pay a little bit more for him.
oh, man. Everybody's going to be listening to this podcast, and they're going to be like, man, these guys are talking about Carroll way too much. Any other thoughts?
Working into every game.
Yeah, any other thoughts on this game here in general?
Not really. I mean, I want to see Al Horford start playing a little better, but until he gets more than 30 minutes a game, it's hard to play him.
Yeah, and, being sick, that's always a reason for these guys to miss games. So we'll have to see how that plays out. We'll move on to Dallas at Utah. Lowest over under of the night, lowest total of the night, 188. Utah's favored by 4. Bunch of injury news here. Obviously, we wouldn't have a Dallas game without injury news. Devin Harris still expected to be out here. JJ Barrera is dealing with a knee injury. He's questionable. Matthews is dealing with a foot injury. He's questionable. It's against Utah. Like, even if these guys sit, is there any interest in any of these guys?
Yeah, I don't think so. Especially, if they're healthy, I think you just avoid it altogether. I think if everyone sits, you could maybe look at Harrison Barnes or Dwight Powell or Seth Curry. If he drew a start or something. But I don't think the value is going to be good enough in this matchup in a full slate. So, yeah, I'm just avoiding the Mavericks.
Seth Curry could get some minutes here, but he just hasn't shown anything with the minutes that he's gotten. So the one guy that I have interest here is Harrison Barnes. He's playing a ton of minutes already. If Wesley Matthews sits here, Harrison Barnes could see upward 37 to 40 minutes here.
Yeah, he's been one of my favorite targets so far. I don't love the matchup, but like you said, he could play a ton of minutes. If some of these guys are out. The problem is the game starts at 9 Eastern, so we probably won't hear on most of these guys until after lock.
So you don't like Barnes facing Joe Johnson here? Come on. Joe Johnson's 50 years old.
Yeah, the individual matchup's fine. It's just, it's more of a team defense thing. We saw it last year. The Jazz don't have elite defenders on the wings, but just the presence of Gobert and the pace and all that. It just hurts fantasy production for everyone.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree. I was more of just busting your balls with Joe Johnson. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that Joe Johnson's 50 years old. That's all. That was my whole goal and purpose of bringing that up. We know Gordon Hayward's out. Boris Diaw is questionable here.
Oh, how about my Jazz beating the Spurs in San Antonio?
Yeah, you're Jazz. I just don't know what to do with this team.
Yeah, it's tough to play any of them right now. George Hill's been awesome so far. Rodney Hood's been really good. The big men just aren't doing enough for me to, want to play them. But yeah, like you mentioned, the lowest total on the night. I typically like to avoid these games. Even though I'm a homer, I'm probably not going to be using anyone from the Jazz.
If you're using anyone, it's George Hill, right? That's the guy we're using here.
Yeah, it's got to be George Hill, averaging over 30 fantasy points a game. But his price is coming up. There's so many good value point guards that we've already talked about. Just tough to do for me.
Yeah, I see a scenario that George Hill could get 35 fantasy points and be 3% owned.
Yeah, that's what he's done pretty much every game so far.
That is true. That is true. Let's get into the last two games here. Much better games as far as fantasy goes. We have Portland at Phoenix. 215.5 total here. Portland's favored by 3 after getting blown out by Golden State. The only injury news here that we have to pay attention to is Devin Booker. His toe, he missed, was it Monday night? He missed the game, so we'll have to pay attention there. We might not get that news, so he might be a guy that, we do a little game theory. We fade him in a majority of our lineups, and if we're playing multiple teams, we plug him into one, and if he plays, you might have some value there. Who knows?
Yeah, or you could do the opposite approach and play Brandon Knight because he would see a boost too if Booker's out.
Sure. We'll get to the Phoenix side. I'm going to tell you who that just to play. Looking at the Portland side of things, it's going to be Damian Lillard every night for me that he's on the slate.
Oh yeah, gotta keep plugging him in. He was playing great against the Warriors. He was really the only one that showed up in that game, but obviously he didn't see very many minutes after the game got ugly. But definitely love the matchup against the Suns. 2 of the faster-paced teams in the NBA. The total's at 215.5, so great spot for him. I think McCollum's in a good spot as well. And then if you want to go for a cheaper center, I like Plum Dog Millionaire, Mason Plumlee, under 5K, and he's coming off a few good games in a row.
I don't mind that call. I don't mind the McCollum call. It's really just going to be Lillard for me. I'm going to be so heavy on Lillard on the slate. I'm telling you that now. It's just going to happen.
Have you been playing any of the wing guys, Turner, Crabbe, or Harkless?
No, and I won't.
Yep, same here.
That's the easiest way to sum it up, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think and Amino too. I guess you throw him in there. But
No.
yeah, I mean, all four of these guys, they're just going to trade off nights of big games. I don't want to play roulette with them.
Yeah, maybe on a 3-game slate, I'll take a shot, but not on a 10-game slate. Looking at the Phoenix side of things, we mentioned Booker is banged up here. Knight moved into the starting role, didn't do anything with the starting job. It's T.J. Warren here, right? It's T.J. Warren is the guy we're going to look at.
Oh yeah, he's the guy that's been getting a ton of usage in this offense. I think he's leading the team in shot attempts. So yeah, you got to look at him. And Brandon Knight, I mean, if he does get another start, I think I'll give him another shot. He did score 18 actual points. He just ended up with 18 fantasy points, which typically not what you want to see. But he's usually a guy that can fill up the stat sheet.
Yeah. PJ Tucker was the most, like, he benefited the most. He played 27 minutes in that game that Booker was out. He benefited a ton. I just don't see that happening. Like, really, it's going to be, like you said, some exposure tonight. I'm going to have a bunch of TJ Warren because I still think he's too cheap. And he has 14 shot attempts in, in each of the first 14 games at least. So I really like Warren. Eric Bledsoe, like, his price is so pricey, but, like, you have to think a big game is just going to happen. And why not do it against Damian Lillard?
Yeah, I've had a little bit of tournament exposure to him pretty much every night he's been on the schedule. That'll continue tonight. Damian Lillard, while I love him on offense, he's not the best defender. So I like that call, especially on DraftKings at 6,900.
Yeah, I like that DraftKings price a lot. Let's get into it. Last game of the night, we have Oklahoma City at LA taking on the Clippers. We have a 207 total, and we have the Clippers favored by 7. Russell Westbrook, 12K. Yes or no?
So he's averaging 38, 12, and 12. Averaging.
Like every night, right? Like if so, it looks like the cap is going to be 12K. We haven't seen him go over 12K yet. We don't know if that's going to continue, but if he's 12K for me, I'm going to find value to put him in my lineup because I'm just going to continue to lock in these 60 points, 60-point floor.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. Chris Paul is usually a guy that I try to avoid point guards against pretty much, religiously. But last 3 meetings, Westbrook's had 54, 45, and 65 against Paul. And that's obviously some of those games are with Durant. So I think you just continue to play Westbrook.
I'm with you, my friend. I'm with you. Isn't it, his price on DraftKings is ridiculously high, though, right?
12-9.
See, if you're going to fade him anywhere, like DraftKings is the spot.
Yeah, for sure. Especially Anthony Davis is a full $2,000 cheaper. So yeah.
Yeah, if you're fading him anywhere, it's on DraftKings. Like, I'm not telling you to fade Westbrook, but if you're going to fade him anywhere, it's on DK. That price is ridiculous. I think, game theory wise and everything, it just tells us to fade him at that price on DraftKings. But on FanDuel, it's too easy to fit him into your lineup. There's no reason not to have him. Looking at the rest of the Oklahoma City team, Steven Adams continues to be a very solid value play. What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I love the spot for Adams. DeAndre Jordan, not a great defender. He's a great shot blocker. He's going to come over and try to block Russell Westbrook's shots every time he gets in the lane. Westbrook's just going to dump it off. Adams going to get a bunch of easy buckets. I think it's a great spot for him, especially on FanDuel at 5,000. And then after they traded away Ilyasova, we should look to see if Jeremy Grant is active or not. If he's not, then Enes Kanter could pick up a few extra minutes in this spot.
Yeah, I don't mind the Kanter call. We'll have to see how it plays out if Grant is available. I think they said, from what I swear I read it, I think they said that he'd be available for Saturday.
So, yeah, I mean, that could be sneaky. We've seen what Kanter can do, averaging over a fantasy point per minute. Yeah,
but speaking of Grant, though, like, he's going to be a guy we're going to look at, like, moving forward, right? He could move right into a spot into this offense.
Yeah, I think it's a great spot for him. He's always been, a guy that I've liked a lot, and he just hasn't been getting the minutes in Philly. So I think this is a good spot for him. Hopefully he'll slide into the starting lineup because I really like what he brings to the table on both ends.
On the other side of the ball here, LA Clippers, like, their prices are so high. What are we doing here?
So Chris Paul always seems to get up for these big games. Anytime he's facing another elite point guard, I always have some exposure to him. Last three meetings against Westbrook, 57, 55, 47, and 48 fantasy points. He's a guy that sees, kind of limited minutes when the game turns into a blowout, but he's a guy that will see upwards of 36, 38 when the game's close. And I expect tonight's game to be close. So I'm going to have Paul quite a bit. I don't know if I can play him in cash games, but I think it's a great spot for him in tournaments.
I like that call. I like the CP3 tournament play. I think this is a game I'm kind of back off of Blake. He's getting up to that price where I just find the extra money and try to get in Brow. That's kind of my take on it. And I'm not going to pay up for two power forwards pretty much on this slate. There's some nice value plays down there, the mid-range. So I think that I think I'm going to kind of be off of Blake, and I don't really love DeAndre Jordan here either.
Yeah, DeAndre Jordan against Steven Adams. I don't want to go that route. Griffin does get to play against Sabonis and Cantor, which is a good matchup. But like you mentioned, he's a little expensive. I think Paul's going to be my primary target in this one.
Yeah, and then we have Crawford, Rivers, and Redick, who all just kind of share and are going to play around like 25 to 30 minutes a night on average.
Yep, Crawford preferred of the bunch just because he adds a little bit more than just scoring. But yeah, I don't think you need to look at them. There's 10 games on the slate, so these fringe bench players, you just don't need them on these kind of nights.
For sure, man. That's going to do it here for the 10-game breakdown of the slate on Wednesday. Before we get into the roster's value picks, I just want to say congrats to you, my friend, taking down the NBA baller here on Tuesday night. $25K in your pocket, my friend.
Yeah, man, it was pretty nice. I was sweating the end of that Warriors game. They had Klay Thompson in there when they were up like 80 points in the fourth quarter. So I was sweating that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I've pretty much been breaking even every night at NBA so far. So it was good to get a nice little win under my belt.
Yeah, nice little bump to the bankroll. And I'm just so happy you did it with like my three core guys. And I obviously just missed the rest tonight. So, Gorgeous Dong was a guy that I was 100% on. Justice Winslow was a guy I played 100% on the slate. And the Alphabet I played 100%. So I was really happy to see those guys in your lineup. I really took the wait and see approach with Chris Dunn, even hyping him on the pod yesterday. I just went elsewhere, and I wish I hadn't. That's going to come back and really those are the things that just make your stomach hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things when you have such a cheap starting point guard. I mean, I know there were a lot of options tonight, so I don't blame you for looking elsewhere. But I mean, that cheap starting point guard expecting to get big minutes. I mean, and like you said, I mean, he's a talented young kid, so I just plugged him in, hope for the best.
I'm not going to complain. I scored 325 points. I'm not going to complain. I had a good night. It's just what could have been. You know how that goes.
Yeah, and the crazy thing was, I mean, he only took 7 or 8 shots, I think.
Yeah, very active defensively in that game. Now, if you had told me Mike Conley was going to be out, I would have probably played him 100%.
Yeah, that was definitely a big bump to him. Even though the game turned into a blowout, he ended up getting some run in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, young guy, get him out there and get him on the court if he's going to be playing starting point for your team. I like that move by the coach. Roster's value picks, I have 3 guys here under 10K that I have written down, and I'll shoot at the names, and you can tell me what you think here. And we're going to start with Okafor at 9,300. We talked about him getting his minutes bumped up here in this game. I think we see a really solid boost in his production here, and I really like this price tag on rosters at 9,300.
Yeah, I do too. I'm typically not a guy that, searches out those 24-minute guys, but with Embiid out, he's going to see a huge usage bump. And, I think he could have similar type of game to Embiid did last night.
Next guy I have is D'Angelo Russell. Not the greatest matchup in the world at Atlanta, but Vegas is expecting this game to be high scoring at 208. Somebody's going to have to keep this team in it, and I like point guards against Atlanta. I'm really going to be looking at D'Angelo Russell here at 9,900.
Yeah, like him in tournaments quite a bit. I think, the best way to attack the Hawks is with point guards. So we know the type of upside that he has, and under 10K, I like it.
All right, last guy I have is Tim Frazier. Until Tim Frazier is over 10K on rosters, just play him every night.
Yeah, all these sites need to raise his price, and if they don't, just keep playing him and keep counting your money at the end of the night.
If we see these sites raise his price, we see Davis gets up there and they go above with Westbrook, like it could be a little tougher, and I wish they would do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the last few slates. It's just been like, I have so many options. I don't know which way to go. Sometimes I just like when you have to work a little bit to get a team that you like.
Yeah, it's way too easy to fit in Westbrook and Davis on a slate like tonight. So, oh, that's always a little frustrating, but it is what it is. Notorious, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, man. I know you write way too much in the grind down, and everybody should appreciate that thing. So I appreciate you jumping on, my friend.
Yeah, as always, thanks for having me. And speaking of rosters, I did add all their salaries to the grind down, so make sure to check that out. And yeah, it's a good site.
Boom! Look at you! Look at you! Like being an overachiever here. I'm gonna have to like step up my game.
Plugging in the sponsors, man.
I like that. Good little shout out there. You should do this more often. So, but you'll be joining me throughout the year on Wednesdays, so I'm appreciative of that. Thanks again for joining us. But that's going to wrap it up here for the Wednesday pod. We'll be back on Thursday talking NFL football, and that's where I'm going. I'm going to research me some football for the next 12 hours. That's what I'm going to be doing. So, Notorious, I appreciate it. Good luck in your contest tonight, guys, and we'll see you again tomorrow.